Sarah broke your program record for steals by a sophomore today with the 6. She's the only forward in the top 10 in a single season that you guys have. I guess just what allows her to be such a disruptor at, with the size and skill set that she has.
Yeah, it's a unique combination that doesn't come along very often. Obviously, I remember Nikisha being, a big guard who just had great anticipation skills and great hands and feel. And Sarah has that on the ball, off the ball. I think she has a really good idea of where the ball's going, and she has tremendous confidence in herself. And it's not something that anyone's, can't take credit at UConn. Hey, we taught her how to do all this stuff. We put her in a position to do some of these things, but she's just, it's a lot of God-given, how does somebody know how to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball? They just can, and she does things because she can, and she's just really, 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 really smart, really intuitive, and big enough that you can't bully her, and quick enough that you can't out-quick her. So it's a rare combination, for sure.
Coach, yesterday you talked about coincidence and trends in player production. After tonight, KK has now had 3 straight games of 9+ points. Can you just talk about her offensive production, and is this becoming a trend in your eyes?
Well, I'm always curious about where do the points come from, how, when. Some people are great at scoring a lot of points when you don't necessarily need a lot of points because, you're already up a bunch, and some are really good at getting them exactly when you need them. And I like when KK feels confident that she can just shoot a wide open 3 with a lot of confidence and knowing that it's the shot I'm supposed to take and at a time when I'm supposed to take it. So, yesterday she made 2, today she made 2. I think the third one should have gone in. And so that's a game changer for us, knowing that we have the ability to do that, and that teams now have to play us much differently than they were maybe earlier in the season when they weren't sure whether she could make that shot. So, all I can do is, put kids in a position where they can do their thing, and then hopefully they get some success, and then they feel confident enough to keep doing it. We have no control over that sometimes, but she seems to be in a really, really good place. I don't think 2 years ago she would have been able to finish some of the shots she finished today around the basket. So she's made a good progression from freshman year to junior year, and that's what you hope for all your players.
Geno, over here. Sarah Strong kind of hits every stat that you could have. When you first recruited her, was there one facet of her game that stood out, or was it just the fact that she did everything?
Yeah, it was hard not to see the impact that she had on a stat sheet. But the thing that I was most taken by was how many things she saw on the basketball court that only some exceptional players would have the ability to see. There's an old basketball adage that Coach Bobby Knight used to talk about all the time when I was young. He said, you can teach players to look, but you can't teach them to see. And we got a lot of players in college basketball that you tell them to look for this, and they don't even know what you're talking about. And she sees things before they happen, and she knows things before they present themselves. And when you have someone like that, that's a God-given gift that automatically makes everybody on your team a better basketball player. And if you saw how many games they won with the team that she had, you would understand what I'm talking about. So her physical things, yeah, being able to, pass it and shoot it and dribble it and rebound the ball and steal it and all the other stuff. But I saw right away that she sees things that other people don't see. It's just I've had a couple of those, so when I first saw it, I knew exactly what I was looking at. I learned how to see. When I was...
Hey, Geno. I'll ask you the similar question that I asked Daisy. Even if perception-wise, in the past, Paige took up a lot of the spotlight, whatever the team-wide contribution was basketball-wise, as a lot more people now in March start watching your team and the rest of women's college basketball, how different is this team from the last few?
It's different in that we have more ways that we can play. We have more bodies that can contribute, and I think they maybe alluded to it also. Defensively, we're able to be more disruptive than we have been in maybe the last 10 years, given what we've been through. So it's a much different team than it was last year. I'm not of the opinion that we're better. We're different. So there is no, are we the same, are we better, are we worse? We're different, and we play a different style of play than we played last year. The results seem to be kind of sort of the same as they were last year. Just a different way about going about it. And when we're on our game, we're as effective as we were last year at this time, for sure.
We're going to stay in the front row for the last four.
Geno, you've alluded to 10 years ago. Which of your teams, what's the best group defensively that you've had, and how close is this group to that?
Well, times have changed significantly. We've been lucky, at UConn, just we've had some great defensive teams that had a lot of pieces to it. The interesting thing about the game was played differently. Let's say, Kara, Rebecca, and Jamel's championship team. The game was played more inside the three-point line, a little bit outside the three-point, and we were so big and so dominant and so smart, and it was hard to get quality shots against us. As the game started to change, that how you play defense changed, and you needed different kinds of bodies. That Sue D Swin team, we had a guard that could guard their centers, and our centers could guard their guards, so but we didn't have quite the depth. I would say the team that had it all was probably the Stewie, Stephanie Dolson. When we ran out that lineup of Stewie, Stephanie Dolson, Kia Stokes on the front line, it was hard for anybody to see the basket, much less get a basket. And I would say that team, with Bria Hartley, Kelly Farris, that may have been the hardest team to score on of any team that I've coached. But if, you know, if Renee and Tina were here, they would tell you that the Renee, Tina, Maya, Kalena Green, and Tiffany Hayes in that group. So we've been lucky that we've been able to put defensive teams out there that are what the time called for. You know, like that Rebecca team would be too slow in some ways to play at this level of basketball being played right now. And this team that we have right now, you know, because we're so versatile, but for everything you get, you give up something, you know. This team creates a lot of turnovers. And the trick is going to be, as we get in the tournament, what happens if we aren't able to create a lot of those turnovers. And that's why we spend so much time working on our half-court offense and our offense in general. And that's why today I was kind of pleased to see us, you know, offensively be what we were. Because it, you know, when the NCAA tournament comes around, all those teams that you just steal it from and run in there and shoot layups, they're watching on TV. They're not playing against you. So you're gonna have to be a little more well-rounded. And I think we're getting there little by little.
3 more starting with Doug here.
Hey, Coach, good to see you.
What's up, Doug?
I know you love talking about streaks, so I'll ask you about not you guys, but I'm wondering if you're aware of what NYU's been doing lately with winning their 89th straight the other night and just put in perspective.
I have. If I'm not mistaken, I think a kid that played on Sarah Strong's team is at NYU. I think
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been through this, so
Yeah.
I mean, just what they've run in the last couple of years and what they're doing right now, getting 89 in a row. And
Yeah, how many are they at now?
They're at 89. They won 89. last
89.
night. Yeah.
Damn. Did they say they tied our record or UCLA's record or who?
UCLA.
UCLA. You know, when you do something that's so consistently good, I think the danger that you see is, well, if you can do it every day, then it must be easy. And I would always say, well, how many things do you do every day that are exactly as good as it was the day before? Probably none. I mean, so doing something exceptionally well and doing it every day that you have to do it is way, way, way more difficult than people think. You know, well, it's Division III. I don't care if it's Division 12. You know, people say, well, the conference they play in, that none of these things are relevant because you have to go out there and you have to execute to the best of your ability. And second, with each game that you win, people are throwing that number at you all the time. And you have to kind of keep your mind on what got you there. You know, what got us here is just we go every day, we practice really hard. So I met some of the kids in the program and the coaches, and I have a lot of respect for them. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know they had gotten to 89, but I hope they get to 112. I think that would be unbelievable. You know, I might want to be at that game.
Geno, a lot is made of your defense, but Jim Flannery was saying how in today's world there's a lot of one-on-one basketball, people attacking the rim, and you guys still do it the way you have been for a long time with great passing, unselfishness. Can you just talk about how good your offense is this year and how good it could be, I mean, with the personnel you have and the style you play?
Yeah, well, I complain all the time that we don't play one-on-one basketball enough. You know, I complain that we don't attack the basket enough, or you know, you saw Sarah today be more aggressive, you know, putting the ball on the floor and playing, because in the end, basketball is a game of one-on-one. You know, it's I catch it, you're guarding me, and now I got to make a decision. Do I shoot it? Do I drive it? Do I pass it? And I think teams that just pass end up, you know, having problems, and teams that can't pass have problems. So I've always thought that in order to get a good one-on-one situation, you have to be a great passing team. And so we spend, from the time I first got the job here at Connecticut, an inordinate amount of time passing and catching the ball, and moving without the ball, and I take great pride in how our teams have been consistently one of the leading assist teams in the country year after year after year after year. It's a tremendous sense of pride in our team that, Sarah can get 23 points on 11 shots, or AZ gets 16 on 10 shots. Around the country, you got guys taking 23 shots to get 11 points, and everybody goes gaga, because, the shots they make, and it's, I just think it's the way basketball should be played, and I'm fortunate that I can get the players to come here that want to play like that. I told Flan, I said, I hope, regardless of what happens today, I said to him, I hope you guys keep playing. And he said, we are, because I enjoy watching the way they play, the way they move without the ball. They just don't have the talent, obviously, that we do. They don't have the shot makers or the playmakers that we do. And they got a couple young kids that are really, really good. But when you see teams like that, and Villanova's be the same way tonight, Seton Hall's kind of similar. The teams in our league, they all play a very similar style, because you also don't have the opportunity to coach guys that can just put the ball on the floor and go get whatever shot they want, Our league is a league that doesn't have as much talent as some other leagues in the country, but it has a style of play that I think when you play against it every day, you get to appreciate, and you get to prepare for whatever style's coming up when you get to the NCAA tournament. Teams that pass are fun to watch. Teams that pass are fun to watch. I think that's one of the reasons why we're so popular as a program. I think we just really value. We had 100 points today, and we had 8 turnovers. We've had games this year where we had 100 turnovers and 8 points. It seemed like. That's what it felt like, anyway.
Last question here.
Back-to-back games where you had all 3 of these guys in double digits. Just what stands out to you about the way that they've kind of developed as a unit this year and kind of built that chemistry over the course of the season?
Yeah. It's hard to say what you think is going to happen. I always hope we have at least 3 players that at the end of the game have had, really, really productive offensive games. And I, like AZ said, when I see that we have 3 players in double figures, and then we have a couple with 9, I think that's what teams should do. They should grow as a team, and they should be able to trust each other, and a coach shouldn't have to always, let's call a play to get this shot. I mean, there's a time and place for that, don't get me wrong. But as units start to become one instead of a group of 5 individuals, they become one. They have a sixth sense of what's coming next. Where's our next basket coming from? And those are the teams that are hard to play against. Teams where they're constantly looking over to the sideline for, coach, help me out here. What should I run? I think those teams, and we become that team sometimes, are not as hard to play against as the team you saw play today.